Frank, are you all able to see my screen?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Frank and Seth, can you two see it as well?
And it's barely coming
Yes.
up for me. I'm just going in on the site.
So I'll get started as soon as Frank and Seth, you both confirm you're able to see. I don't want to lose you anywhere.
No, you can start now. If it's being recorded, if I miss the initial part of it, that'll be good. It's just going to take me a couple of minutes to install the app.
Gotcha. Okay.
Oh, okay. And just to let Seth and Frank, you guys know, Tyler is part of our services deployment team. He handles Image Assist. So I let them know that you guys are interested in leveraging this tool, and he's going to just go over the tool with you. And I know, Tyler, you probably want to add a lot more than that, but just wanted them to let you know kind of where you fall on the account team.
Thank you. So, okay,
Yeah.
guys, Image Assist is it's a tool for creating a cross-platform image that you can put inside our factory and ship systems, that a system that you've created, an answer file for that is sysprepped, generalized, and ready to boot. With that, it'll be a hardware agnostic image. In the end, you can deploy it locally and you can deploy it in the factory, both with our driver packs, so that the first boot you're ready to go with drivers. So, having said that, I want to show you just a high-level overview of the tool and how you utilize the tool to create the image and restore the image. So, on the screen that I'm showing right now, you can see I've got VMware Workstation. Well, you probably can't, unless you're familiar with it. That's VMware Workstation that's running in the background.
Hey, Tyler.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just me, but I can only just see your Windows
You're
background.
correct. That's all I
Yep.
see as well.
That's right. This is a virtual machine running here.
Okay. I just want to make sure you weren't trying to show anything else, because it just shows just a file that says Image Assist right now.
Yep.
Okay.
So what I'm
Okay,
going to
cool.
do
Sorry.
is demo the process for using this. So Frank and Seth, what I've got is a virtual machine here, and what we recommend is you build using a virtual environment, okay? My virtual environment happens to be VMware Workstation. You can also use Hyper-V, VirtualBox. I prefer VMware because the USB availability is just much simpler when I attach USB devices, etc. So, can you guys stop me at any point with any questions you have, okay? The operating system will be installed and configured the way you want, just like you would on a typical reference image. So, for instance, I've installed Windows 10. Let's say, I'm going to go in and personalize my local administrator account because I want it to look that way for all my users when they log in. So I'm going to make my customizations, maybe make a few changes on my desktop. Once I've configured everything, the best thing to do is always take a snapshot of your reference build, right? So at this point, I'd pause my machine, take a quick snapshot of it, call it reference. And then at that point, I'll run the Image Assist tool on it. So Image Assist, it's a free tool you can download off the web. You just go to dell.com/imageassist, download the tool, and then we'll run through the installation of it. I'll show you. I've already got it just sitting on the desktop of this system. Frank, Seth, have you guys built images before yourselves?
I have with Ghost.
Yeah, with Ghost, okay. Are you familiar with sysprep or answer files or any of that?
Yeah, sysprep, I was just setting it up, but I am familiar with it.
Okay. So The tools behind a lot of this are Microsoft tools. What we've done is we've just used Microsoft best practices and tools for creating an image. So you won't have to learn how to use the AIK or all these type things. They're essentially embedded with a simple wizard GUI interface, and we walk you through creating an answer file, sysprepping the system with that answer file, and then auto capturing your image, so you don't have to worry about capturing the image in the end. And what you end up with is a WIM, a Windows image file. Okay, so I've now installed the tool. It brings up this interface, and were I not on the call with you, what you would do is you just follow the little green blinky blinky button, because it's kind of like it's a wizard, so it'll walk you through it, right? Since I am on the call with you, I'll just show you the quickest way through the tool. Choosing defaults. You know, if I chose Guide Me, it would take me through each of these tabs, and it would tell me what it is that's going on. So you're free to do that, you know, and go through these, but when I choose defaults, it basically selects the items that most people use, which is it's going to run the unattended XML creator for you, and it'll help you create the settings that you want for first boot. You know, do you want to join a domain? Do you want to set your language to English? Do you want to specify the time zone, etc., these type things? It's also going to, by default, run the auto capture, meaning that when it finishes doing these things, it will reboot the system and capture the image for you. Okay? This, by default, is not checked, the Create Bootable USB drive. But the first time that you run this process, you'll want to create that key, because that's the key you can use to restore your image locally and test it. It's also the key that you can utilize to just use for break fix for your text. So they can boot up to this key and then restore the image. So we'll take a look real quick at what that looks like as far as creating the USB drive and running the process. So when I say run selections, it wants me to insert a USB drive so that it can create that drive. So if I attach, I'm attaching a USB drive now to my system. Okay, this is my USB drive. If I say rescan, and I choose my drop down, it now sees my USB device, and then I can create the USB drive. So for the purposes of timing, I'll go ahead and kick off the creation. You'll see it says it's going to format the disk. Essentially what it's doing is it's creating our PE, our Windows PE environment that has the options that we provide for this USB drive. One of them I told you was the availability to restore an image. It also has the availability to capture a static image for you should you need to do that. Seth and Frank, have you guys ever used DISM?
I have not.
Okay.
I have not either.
Okay, DISM
I've
is...
used WDS in the past, but other than that, no.
Okay, so DISM is like, it's the image management command line tool from Microsoft. It's how you capture an image. It used to be ImageX, and so you might be familiar with Ghost Explorer, how you go in and explore a ghost image and then make changes to it, right? In this scenario, what you have is DISM is all command line driven. It's how you capture images, apply images. There's many things you can do with it, but in order to make changes to a WIM, a Windows image file, you have to mount it using DISM. one of the things that we created with this USB drive as well is that it will give you a GUI interface for mounting a Windows image, making changes to it, and committing those changes to it. So you don't have to learn how to do all that via command line. So let me show you a little bit of what that looks like. I'm going to reboot. So this process, I'm just going to kill it, and I'm going to reboot to, let's pretend that this key was created. I'm going to go ahead and reboot to that key so that you can take a look at what that looks like. So I've just got a snapshot where I'm booted up to it.
So basically, this is doing all like the ImageX commands just through the UI, correct?
Yep. Yeah, a few more things like sysprep. You know, it's going to help you run sysprep. It's also going to help you create an unattend XML, and I'll show you that in a moment.
Nice.
Yeah. So the portion that I'm showing you right now is just that USB drive that's kind of handy. So if I were to boot that, like plug this system in, F12, boot up to it, what I would get is this interface. And what you have is you have a restore tool, a capture tool, a system summary tool, and that system summary tool is basically if you had created an image using ImageAssist before and you wanted to know what that image was and like what it was about, you can use this tool to read that WIM file and it'll tell you what OS it was, all the information about it. And this is the file explorer. Like I mentioned, you can mount an image and make changes to it. So for instance, let's say I wanted to capture a static image and I chose capture. Essentially it's using ISM, the new version of ImageX, and it's going to read all my partition information. It's going to present that to me and it's going to say, capture the image if you'd like to. You can make some changes to that as well. Right now it's detecting all my drives. It's showing, in my particular scenario here, you can tell I've got a UFI image. So it's seeing my UFI recovery drive letter, my UFI system drive letter, and then my Windows partition. And I don't know if you're all aware, but when you boot into PE, your drive letters get enumerated differently than within the OS, right? So that's why it's showing D, E, and F versus D, E, and B versus what would typically Windows would be C. So at this point, I could capture my image, and then I could use that to restore my image at some point. You see down here it says image has not had sysprep run on it. This image is not valid for factory deployment. That's because this system, I didn't run through the ImageAssist process. I'm literally just booted up to a system that I want to capture a static image of. For instance, let's say you had, one of your employees come in and they just needed a backup of their system before you went and restored it. This is a way to just get a static, like you would with Ghost, point in time. Okay, so I'm going to go back to where we were, where we had ImageAssist installed. And we'll finish the process aside from the USB drive. So here, when I choose defaults, I'm not going to select the create USB drive because I've already created it at this point. I'm going to say run selections. And what it brings up is the unattend XML creator. Now, if you had an unattend XML that you guys already used, you can import that file. There was a selection there where you could import unattend. Here, I'm going to show you how you would create your own. So, for instance, we're going to put in the owner name, company name, and these are what would show up on your system. If you used a Mac key, you would put that in here. If you're using KMS or OEM, you just leave it blank. So you can prompt to select a language at first boot, or you can say, I always want English, or I always want, whatever language you want. By default, what it does when it launches this tool is it detects the current system state. So if you already had these set in your image, it would read those and populate those here. It won't do that for a product key because that's not legally acceptable for us to do. You can see it detects my architecture type as 64-bit. My particular OS already had the time zone set to Pacific, so it read that. I'll change mine to Central. And I can either join a local work group, or if I'm connected to a hardwire and I want it to join a domain at first boot, I can specify my domain with a user that has domain join rights, with those credentials here. I can even specify an OU that I want it to be added to. You can prompt the end user to input a computer name. So these are computer naming options. You can either prompt at first boot, which this is actually only available for Windows 7 and Windows 8.1. Microsoft took that option away for Windows 10. You can auto-generate a name, or you can create a custom name. So I could say company-service tag. So this is the Windows has a 15-character maximum limit for naming, so it will stop you at whichever point you get to. So that's 15 characters there. You can do prefix and or suffix. And it shows you a little example of what it's going to look like here. You have the option to set the local administrator account password here. User account creation. If you want to prompt the end user to create a local administrator account, you can do that as well. If you're building a Windows 7 image, you can disable system restore. That's something a lot of admins used to do. You can enable the local administrator account, which by default, you know, on Windows it is disabled. So let's say, for instance, I needed to enable that because I wanted to log on one time and run a batch file. I can do that here. I don't know if you're familiar with SysPrep, but you can copy the local administrator's profile to the default user profile, meaning any changes that I had made to that local admin account will be replicated every time a new user is created, so I can keep my look and feel the same for each user. So I would want to select that. User account control, you have the option to modify those here. And then you have two sections for what you want to happen at first logon and or the synchronous commands, the run synchronous commands that run at the end of setup. So this would be like your setup complete, and this would be your first logon commands. So let's say I want to run something that I have staged at C Windows IT first logon .bat. And I can do that as many times as I need additional commands. Same thing with these sections here. So it's just going to essentially build all of that into my unattend file and utilize that. Okay. So at this point I can click build unattend. It's now created that unattend file, and it's going to do a system check on my image to make sure that there are no issues. It's looking at things like drivers, applications, anything that might prevent SysPrep from running or that might prevent it from being a hardware agnostic image. So if it were to find an application or a driver, it would fail here, and it would explain to you why it failed and what the remediation steps are.
Yeah, and we just sent you this free pictures. If I need a monitor, 25 inches or larger, 25, 25, 65, 14, 44.
Okay, so it finished its validation check. It's good. What it's doing now is it's preparing the capture environment. So in order for us to auto capture the image so you don't have to worry about booting up to the key and capturing it yourself, it's just going to do that. This is what it's preparing here. In a minute, it's going to reboot, and then it will look at all the partitioning information. It will capture it directly to the root of the C drive, and then you can copy that image off to either a network share or to a local USB drive, etc. So I'm going to go ahead and reboot. This portion here would probably take another 5 to 10 minutes for it to complete, but I already have a system snapshot where it's booted back up to the portion of the capturing. So I'm going to go ahead and boot to that. So once it boots up, you'll see it sitting at a prompt where it's going to give you 30 seconds to stop it if you want, because you may want to not just let it auto capture. You may want to say, well, I want to change the default name, and I also want to just skip writing it to the C drive. I want to write it directly to my network share. So by default, it's going to just name it Dell captured image and write it to the local C drive, like I said. If I wanted to cancel and write it to a network share, I could browse out here and put in a network path. And then put in my credentials for my Windows authentication. It would map a drive to there, and I could write it to there. So I'm going to just capture it right to my local C drive. And this would take a little while, like capturing an image. This would probably take another 5 minutes to complete the image capture. And in the end, you'll have a WIM image that you have the option of restoring locally for your break fix images. And also, we'll take that image and put it into the factory, and you can start ordering all of your precisions, latitudes, Optiplex, some of the XPS models, etc., off of this one image. So it's transitionless as well. So as we get new models that come out in the factory, you don't have to worry about sending us a new image because it's already hardware agnostic. We just detect it first boot. Well, not first boot. We boot up just far enough into PE to do a WMI query on the BIOS, and then we say, oh, that's 7470. Inject the drivers for the 7470 into the driver store and shut it down. Then we ship it to you. When it boots the first time on your end, it's going to run the Windows setup process, and all those drivers will be there, and then it will run through Ubi and whatever you've configured for your first boot settings. So that said, let me show you a little bit about the restoration process. Once this is captured, I'll actually just restore this image so you can see what that looks like. In the interim, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you to our website where you would get this tool. So if I go to dell.com/imageassist, On this page, right down here, it says click here to download Image Assist. That's where I'm going to head to. And my internet connection has really gotten slow. This is the page where Image Assist is housed, and it's got all the training videos, documentation. There's a user forum where lots of people communicate in the community. There's actually a help desk that's available who knows Image Assist inside and out, and they're available free of charge from, I believe, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. But what I was going to take you to is show you this drivers and supported systems page. This page shows you all of the systems that are supported by OS, also by architecture. So for instance, if I went to the Windows 10 drivers section, here's all of the latitude and mobile precision in this area here. Here's all the Optiplex, Precision Workstation, XPS notebooks, Venue Pros, and we now have a Vostro as well. So you can search this page for what it is that you're looking for, and then just download the pack that you want. We also have a new tool that we just launched for downloading. It's the driver pack downloader tool, and I'll show you just really quick what that looks like. It's a much simpler way of downloading all of the drivers you want to a central repository. So for instance, I already have it installed, I believe. Maybe not. Let me install it here. So what it's doing is it's going and verifying that I have network connectivity and that it can reach the packs. So that's the first thing it does. And then it's asking me where I want to download them to. So you could browse out to a network share if you wanted to and download all your driver packs to a network location. And then it gives you this interface for if I wanted to find 7270, it sees all the 7270 packs, or where that driver pack is for what OS, right? Or I can just browse everything. So like for Windows 10 64-bit, my Optiplex, I want to get 3050, 7040, 9020, and then XPS, I want the 9360. When I say save, check for updates, it's going to go out and start downloading those driver packs. Okay. So I'm going to cancel that, go back and check my image capture, which it has completed its capture. And it's asking, click the X for WIM file move options. Right, so if I close this, insert an additional drive now before clicking OK to continue. So I'm going to go ahead and attach my USB drive. If I say OK, it asks if I want to map a network drive, which I could at this point and write it out there, or I can say no. It sees that I have a key in, which my key actually is formatted FAT32, so it's not large enough to copy the image to. If it were NTFS, it would copy it directly to it. So I can write it out to a network share. Let me do that. Let me connect my network on my VM and on my host machine. One 132. So I should be able to okay. So it's mapped to my Z drive. It knows that the captured image is sitting on my B drive where it captured it to, and it's going to copy it to my Z drive, which is where I just mapped. Now it's copying it basically off to my host machine because I mapped it to my local host machine. And for restoration purposes, I think I might have a VMware driver pack, which typically you wouldn't do. You would download a physical driver pack. Okay, so it's finished copying my image over. If I went back to my capture tool, my restore tool, which I'll go ahead and do that, show you what the image restoration looks like. So this is back where my snapshot where I've already booted to the USB drive. I'm going to run the restore tool. It wants a WIM file, so again I can browse back out to my local host here. There's my image. See it reads all my partitioning information. This is what it captured. I'll add my driver package that I just downloaded. sees my driver pack, and I can click restore. Now it's going to apply my image, it's going to put my drivers in place, and then right now I have it to stay, but I could say when I'm done, I want you to reboot or shut down. So for this, I'll just say reboot, and you'll see it kick off the process. So what questions do you guys have at this point?
I actually have no questions. I just thought it was interesting. It's been a while since I've used Image, back then Image Direct. We used to do a lot of this on a form, filled everything out, tell you what models of machines we had, credential information, partition information, and you all would do all of this in the background for us and then let us know, send us an email when the images are ready. And we just downloaded them and then tested them out in different models of computers. But I see you have automated all of this since the last time I used it, so it'll just be interesting to get used to it and learn it.
Yeah, we got some good feedback over the years about Image Direct being somewhat time consuming for all your local stuff, and just up in the cloud, the amount of back and forth you had to do. So we took it out and sped things up significantly with everything being a local installer and being able to download these driver packs and essentially build the USB drives and restore this way.
Is this also supported with HP, or is it just Dell hardware?
So for the dynamic portion of it, what it was saying there was I need to remove my USB drive before I reboot, and that's because this is a UEFI system. I don't know if you guys have done much UEFI booting, but if you have a UEFI, if you're booting UEFI and you have a USB drive, it will boot to that prior to your OS. So anyway, I'm now rebooting that system, and you'll see it's going to come up and deploy the image that I had captured. So to your question, HPs, Lenovo's, etc., we do not have driver packs, right? So it's not going to be a dynamic image to support HP or Lenovo or any other vendor. You could capture a static image with our tool, like I was showing you earlier how to use that capture tool. So if you had an HP configured and built the exact way you want, you could take that key and you could capture a static image of it and then restore a static image, but that's as much as you can get with it. So a couple of other things I wanted to show you is for your local break fix. Are you guys global, or are you just here in Austin? Or are you US based?
US.
US, okay. So do you have need for re-imaging systems like a lot of systems ever on site?
Basically, right now, our current process is they send them to our service desk, which is based out of Houston, and they re-image them through Fog. Is currently what they're using.
Okay. So one of the things that we have been working on over the past year, and we're currently piloting it, is the availability to do automated restoration. So what you saw in my demo was I selected the file, and then I selected the driver packs, and then I restored. So what we've done now is we've started to build, I'll show you here, I think I've already got it installed on my local host machine. maybe not. Okay, so here's my image that we redeployed. Go back here real quick. Yeah, I don't have it installed. Let's see here. I can probably do it pretty quick here in my demo environment. But essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how you can do automated restorations either locally or over a network. You remember the USB key I created? I can create either an ISO that you could import, I'm sorry, not an ISO, a boot WIM that you could import into your WDS environment for PXE booting that has credentials all built into it to where it knows where on the network your image and your drivers are stored. So I'm just installing Image Assist with a /deploy switch that allows me to get these new pilot functionality. So I can show you real quick what this looks like. But it'll either create you a boot WIM that you can import into WDS, or it will create you a USB drive that has all of the logic integrated into it, where it knows where your image is either locally on the key and your drivers, or it knows where your image is at on your network with your drivers. So that family pack downloader that I showed you earlier, you could essentially set that up to download all your drivers to a location on a server, post your images on a server, and then build this deployment media so that all your systems know where your images and drivers are. And you can even password protect it so that if you're using the PXE version, they can't just re-image their systems without knowing the IT password. So here's what it looks like. It's all integrated into the USB creator tool, which, by the way, earlier I didn't show you this drop down because typically we have people use the guide me approach. If you've been familiar with the tool, these are direct links to the different tools, and it says recommended for system admins. So like if you just wanted to run the unattended XML creator, you could, or if you just wanted to run the validation check, you could, auto capture, etc. This little tool is handy if you need to split your WIM file into multiple WIMs, into SWIMs, because like I said earlier, a FAT32 formatted USB drive has a 4 gigabyte file size limitation. So if your image is 8 gigs, you're going to have to split it up. I'm going to go back here to my USB drive creator. And when I launch it this time, you'll see these 2 extra tabs here. It wants me to insert a USB drive, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So if I go to this deploy tab, here I can specify, okay, if I wanted to do PXE, I would just select the PXE boot WIM. If I wanted to do it via USB drive, I could do that. So let's say I wanted to make a USB drive that's got all this logic. I can either do a single image and specify the path to that single image, or I can do multiple images. Multiple images only work over the network. So let's say I had a Windows 7 image and a Windows 8.1 image and a Windows 10 image throughout my network. I could put all of those in the same folder on my share, and it would prompt me at first boot which one I want to restore. So I would say server, deployment share, network, user account, and password. Right? And when I have all that information entered in, I can browse out, select that location. Same thing for my driver packs. I put my location in my driver packs. And then if I wanted to password protect it, I would put in a password. When I create that drive, it has all that logic integrated. This tab here is if you wanted to replicate that media build. You could select my source drive, select, so there's multiple options here. Let's say you had done it for just a USB drive, and that USB drive included an 8 gig image and maybe 4 gigs worth of different driver packs. What it would do is it would allow you to put in as many USB keys as you wanted and just replicate that to as many USB keys at once. If it sees that it's a network based and it doesn't have an image or drivers on it, it will just create an executable for you that you can then share that executable out to your network techs, and they can run the executable, and it will say, put in a USB drive, and it will create them a drive that has that automated restoration logic within it. So that's just a quick preview of those features that we're piloting right now that customers have been asking for. They're not officially launched, but you saw how I was able to get to them with that deploy switch. So that's the kind of, functionality that we've got integrated throughout the tool as it exists today. And I encourage you guys to utilize, the videos that are out there and our help desk. If you have any follow-up things that you need with them, if they run into issues where you guys don't have, you aren't getting, they can escalate up and get more senior level support.
All right, thank you.
Hey, you're welcome.
Hey guys, this is Brenna. Was this helpful? Is there anything else that you guys want to see on the image assist side at this point?
I think this was helpful. Brandon, you could just send us, maybe those links that were just referenced, so we can get to the videos and all that information. I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, you know what? I'll send you guys an email. I'll follow up with links to all that information.
Okay.
And this recording, please.
Yes, thank you.
See if I can find a way to post that. I don't know if I can.
I've got the recording. I'll send it out.
Okay, excellent.
Awesome. Guys, this is Julie. I jumped on for the end of it. Sorry I had to drop, but thank you for recording it.
For sure.
And I think, so Brenna, what do you think the next steps are from here? I mean, we've kind of gone through the demo of Image Assist and building the image, so do we need any, I think just digging into what the process would look like to get, to get started, kind of the onboarding, if we were going to have you guys start doing the imaging, so that we have kind of a feel for what that's going to take and the financial impact of it, and that, so we can plan for maybe next year.
Yeah.
Or later this year.
So what I have for next steps with you guys is, so separate from Tyler, we have someone who is an imaging expert who wasn't able to make the call. That we can set up a call with them to talk about unloading the image and the pricing piece of it. Okay. And then also on June 13th, it looks like we have that image deployment workshop with Travis Martin to walk through what we can help you guys with on the deployment side.
Got it. Okay, cool.
So, and Christy, I don't know, I'm putting you on the spot here, so sorry about that, but has any of the systems shipped out to USA Compression for the evals?
The docs have, just a second, I can tell you everything. Everything except the last Rugged 5414 has shipped. 2 have been delivered. The other 2 are on the way, and then the last 5414 should ship out any day.
Okay. Okay, great.
Okay.
So it looks like the evals are either there or on their way, so that's good. So that so we can start getting feedback from your end users on what they think about the machines, and then
Yeah.
move forward with the imaging piece, and then that third part will be the deployment piece and how you can leverage Dell on that side.
Cool. Yeah, we've Seth, we need to finish that test plan so that when those things come in, we can get them built and then communicate to the 3 guys that we're going to have testing them. What do you guys know off the top of your head, or do you have it in front of you? When does the eval end? When do we have to have them back if we decide not to keep them?
They're 90 days from ship date. So
90 days from ship. Okay.
I will keep you guys aware of those dates. The eval team will also send an email, and it's not hardcore 90 days. Like they'll send a note when that 90 days approaches, and then we have a little bit of a window to get all the returns set up.
Got it. Okay, cool. Good deal.
Yeah, Julie.
Yeah.
I'll work on that. And then I saw that our AP department forwarded over one of the laptops. So it said no charge on there. So I take it that's just for official information that, hey, we sent you the laptop. It's at a certain point, if we were to go ahead and say, yep, we want
Not
it,
until
then
the
you
end
would
of the
invoice us
90
separately.
days. Yes, sir. You
Cool.
can make a decision. We can set up a return. If you don't want to keep it, if you do, then we would need a PO, and I'll close the invoice with that.
Cool. Alrighty. Sounds good.
Okay, great.
Thanks,
Well,
guys.
we'll get that information over to you guys, and then we'll definitely be talking soon.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a great
Thanks.
weekend.
All right, bye-bye.